Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Familiars have taken all over the sanctuary and you want the best one for your character. The way to get familiars in Diablo Immortal is by crafting. Yes, you cannot just go to the shop and buy one. So the process of crafting is not simple and not straightforward at all. So in this video, we'll go through all the steps of crafting so that we can get a good understanding of all the crafting mechanics and what to expect from each of them. Before I proceed, I would like to say that I am not covering any basic stuff in this video. All those have been covered in my previous video, which I will link in the top right corner. I would highly recommend you to watch that one first. Secondly, every time I mention skill, I mean passive skill, because the active skill is actually constant always, and passive skill is the one which you keep on evolving. So without any further ado, let's get into the video. First, before we craft, we should know what we want. What is the end goal? So the end goal for crafting a familiars will be to get the best traits and the best skills. Obviously, because these will make your character really strong. And by best traits and best skills, I mean all of them legendary. This goal you can look as a long-term goal or maybe a goal for whales. A medium-term goal will be to get a mix of traits and skill. Basically, not the best traits or maybe not the best skills, but a mix of them. That will be a mix of rare and legendary stats. This can be looked as a medium-term goal. And the immediate goal right now for anyone is to either choose one trait or skill, or you can get lucky, which I'll show how you can get lucky later. And that will also be, a mix of rare and legendary skills. Keeping these in mind is very important as we start our crafting process. First step is obviously going to be to summon a familiar, then to empower the familiar to rank 30, then to convert them, and finally to meld. And there's also a step of end pact. The feature of end pact I'll discuss at the end, because it can be used at various stages depending on how many familiars you have. So I don't want to keep things complex. Let's get into the game and understand each of the steps one by one. So to summon a familiar, what we need is a familiar contract. These are available in very limited quantities, and actually these are a bottleneck right now. So once you have a familiar contract, very limitedly available, you go to the summoning table or the summoning NPC. There you have to use this contract to get a summon. Basically, once you use this contract, you will get a familiar of rank 1. So once you summon, you can get a familiar of any type of maybe white, blue, gold, or even there's a slight chance of getting an aberrant familiar from a summoning contract, but that is really, really low. It's like getting a 5 out of 5 blood soaked jade from your crest. So in this way, you are going to summon a familiar, and this will be of level 1. Level 1 familiar are of actually no use. However, they have one use which I'm going to share later on in the video. But right now, as level 1, it is of no use. Once you have summoned a familiar, you can just go to the game and you can level up a familiar. Now, which one to empower? Actually, this might not be relevant for most of us, but at the start or for a free-to-play player, this can be relevant. Why? Because a level 1 familiar has nothing, but once it gets to level 30, there is a chance that this one will have traits. So you have to make your decision based on your active skill, maybe which active skill you want, or you can make your decision based on the traits. Now, if you look at this button, you can see there are 4 traits. So especially for example, you are a damaged, you are a DPS character, you play a DPS build. So I think these are like very good traits, like critical hit chance increase, increasing skill damage, increasing damage to player, which can be very good in PvP, and primary attack damage increase. So if I am going to level up this one, this Quake's Strider, I have a chance of getting these traits. And based on this, I'm going to choose my familiar right at the start. However, you can also, if you do not want to empower your character and you are looking to for the best familiar ability, you can make your decision basis of this active skill, because everyone has a different active skill, and based on this you can make your decision. I personally, however, going to make a decision based on traits. So here I'll be empowering my Quakesider. It takes 58 spirit essences to level from 1 to 30, and as you can see in this video, I have got two traits which I was looking for, and both of them are related to damage. So in this way I got a familiar with two traits. Now these two traits are inactive. How to activate them, I'll come to that later. So in this way you have summoned a familiar and made it to level 30. Now what next? Basically now we need skills and traits in our familiars. Skills we get from melding and converting, and traits we get from converting. So you can see that traits you can acquire only by converting or by making, or like I just showed you, I just empowered my familiar from 1 to 30, from level 1 to 30, and that gave me traits. So that's why my choice of familiar empowerment was based on traits, because the sources to get traits is very limited, and converting is only way after that to get traits. So basically now you have to get skills and traits, and to get trait you need to do converting. Melding is pretty simple and straightforward. However, converting is complex. Converting is the most crucial step in crafting your familiar, and this is the step which you might have to do again and again. So basically after getting your level 30 familiar, you go to the next step, that is converting. So what is converting? Converting is a process where you use three familiars of level 30 and you merge all three of them and you get a new familiar. Now this new familiar can have a random amount of traits and can have some and has some skills. So why are we doing this? Like I showed you earlier, we are doing the conversion to get traits, because that is the only way to get traits in this game. There's no other way you can get good traits. So this step is very, very important. So once you do the conversion, you may or you may not get traits. So in this example that I've used, you can see that in the right hand side there is, you can see the skills, the type of skills that you will be getting. It can be either blue, yellow, gold, but the type of skills that you will be getting will depend on what you are using as fodder. So in my example, I'm using one familiar that has of 0 star and two familiars of 1 star. So the maximum value of the star that I'm using is 1 star. So in my end result, I might get a familiar which has 0 star, basically -1, whatever is the highest level. Suppose you are using 4 star familiar, the end product will at least have a 3 star familiar, will be a 3 star familiar. So I hope this is clear. So this is how the skills work in conversion. However, traits are totally random. In my example, you can see that the familiar that I've got is very, very bad attributes, skills or whatever. So this is the process of conversion. In this case I got lucky. Now I'm going to show you another case where I'm going to merge three familiars. So in this example, the familiar that I'm using, there are three familiars, and the highest familiar star rating is 2. So the resulting familiar that I'll get will be at least of 1 star. That is a guarantee. So that there is some certainty of skills, the type of skill that you will be getting, and you can see the probability of getting each type of skill in the button which is next to convert button. So in this way the skills are locked. And for the traits are totally random. So in my example, the first familiar had 2 traits, the Varrock has 0 traits, and the Stormlust has 1 trait. So 0, 1, 2, 3 types of traits are there. And I'm using Quakesider. I was hoping to get the two traits that I have of Quakesider. I was hoping to keep them, but after the conversion you can see that I got a Quakesider and the traits that I got, and I lost the 2 traits that I have, but I got a new trait of the Quakesider only. So in this way you can get a random trait, and you can get random familiar skills. So in my example, this is a very good example of a very good pull. 1 gold skill was certain, but I got 5 of them. So this is a jackpot when it comes to skills. However, for traits, this is like, okay, whatever, this is just manageable. this is just okay, this is not so great. So this familiar is going to, so once you get this familiar, means you have different types of gold skill, means this familiar is good. But however, your character is buffed by only one trait, right? Now this trait you can see is inactive. How to make it active? So there is an NPC. You go to Nizaz, and you can see in my example, I'll do this with a different type of example, with a different familiar. So here you can see that on my the gold familiar has the one active trait, and the blue familiar has two inactive traits. Now to make traits active, your familiar has to have at least a certain level of attribute. For example, in this case, both the familiar need a very high amount of, what is the first one is called, both the trait needs 120 ferocity. Now the right familiar which I have, although it's blue and the traits are inactive, I can if I want to use that traits, I can transfer the the stats, the attributes of a gold to a blue familiar. And this is what I've done in this example. I'm going to transfer this, and my gold familiar is going to become a blue familiar, but my blue familiar is now actually having two traits which are active. In this way, I moved from one trait to two trait. So this feature should not be used all the time. As you understand more about the familiar and you get more familiars, you can use this feature. And this feature is very useful if you get say a jackpot. Maybe you get an aberrant familiar with legendary traits, and you have one more aberrant familiar with very high attributes, but it does not have any traits. So you can just transfer the attributes to this familiar which has higher traits, and you will get those traits active. So this exchange attribute NPC, this is very important, and that's why whenever you get a familiar of lot of good traits, you should keep them. You should not you should keep them for future use, basically. Finally, I'll show you one more thing, last thing in conversion, the possibilities of conversion. So here you can see that someone has got an aberrant familiar with very high, very good traits and skills. So that's why and at the start you saw that I got a very garbage familiar. That's why this step is very crucial, because from conversion you can either hit or miss. You can either hit a jackpot or you can get complete garbage. Once you get complete garbage, you have to again go to get 3 familiars to level 30, and then again start hope to get something good from conversion. I'm only talking about traits. Yes, obviously you also got some good skills, but I believe conversion is more important to get traits. But if you hit some jackpot skills, obviously you should consider that as well. Keep in mind, skills are for the familiar, except that one skill which is like a cheat death. All the skills are for the familiar, and the traits are for your main character. So depending on your priority, so if you have a high priority of buffing your main character, you should go for traits and you should use the exchange attribute function. However, if your priority is you are a long-term player, you want both, you have to move slowly. The process will be slow. And by conversion only you can get and if you get lucky in conversion, you can get a head start. However, if you do not get lucky in conversion, for the time being, whatever traits you have, you can just use another familiar like I've done, and you can use that familiar for traits. And if you are focusing on skill, you can use whatever skill familiar you get from a conversion. That is for the time being, that is for the short term. Keep in mind, from conversion you can get 3 utility traits. Now this is very important. Those utility traits, if you are again using for conversion, you may lose those traits. So at any time you should never basically use the utility traits for conversion. You should use them as a bonded familiar. So those utility traits will still be active. Now, final thing about the traits that I want to mention is that the gold traits are active only for your companion and for the legendary, and if you have a legendary trait active. Basically, for active legendary trait, you need an aberrant familiar which is legendary, basically, or which can be gold but should have very high attributes of 170 and up. So if you do not have any utility familiars, or you do not have any legendary familiars, with legendary traits, unlocking the extra bond, the extra slots for bond, and wasting gold does not make any sense, because those familiars will be inactive totally. So that is how you get traits. And or obviously you can buy from the market, so that's a different thing. So that is how you get traits. Next thing is going to melding. So a quick guide on melding. Basically, in melding you use two familiar of the same type, and once you meld them, their star rating increases. So if we are both the familiars are of a 0 star, the next after melding you get 1 star. So and similarly, now you meld two familiars of the 1 star, you get 2 star. You meld two familiars of 2 stars, you get 3 stars. So that's how you can increase the star rating, basically the skill level of your familiar. Keep in mind that you can choose whatever attributes you want from the melded familiar. Whichever familiar has higher attributes, you can choose those. So there is so basically, and finally the traits. Now you have already, like I have told you, we have already got traits from our conversion process. Now if you are melding, you have to meld those familiar with those traits, and keep them on the left side. Basically, you have to use that familiar which has the traits as the main familiar, and use the other familiar as a fodder, because the other familiar which you are using on the right hand side, whatever trait it has, you will lose them. In whatever testing I did, all the familiar that I used on the left hand side, all those have retained their traits. So that's why I've come to know that the traits are kept intact of the familiars which are on the left. So that is a very crucial point on melding. So that's how you so once you have gotten the traits, then you start melding and keep getting your higher stars. Here I have a doubt. If you get full 6 skills, 6-star familiar, and later you meld that 6-star familiar with another 6-star with all the gold, will you get a legendary skill? Basically a legendary legendary slot for skill. I am not sure on that. If you do not have a legendary skill already from your crafting process, then I think maximum you can hit is gold level skills. And once I know, I will let you know down in the comments, and maybe in that way you can get some legendary skills later on. So I'm not sure on that. So now whatever we have learned, those are for common familiars. For aberrant familiars, everything is same, but there are some advantages of aberrant familiars. Firstly, to make the conversion of aberrant familiars, you need 3 aberrant familiars. You cannot merge ordinary familiars with the aberrant familiars. So once you have 3 aberrant familiars of level 30, you can convert them. So the resulting once you convert them, you can use, everything is same. The way the skill is decided, the way is the traits are decided, but there are 2 advantages. Firstly, if you use conversion stone, like it's mentioned here, it says it will maintain the familiar rarity. Basically, gold will not downgrade to blue, and it will remain as gold. And suppose you have legendary, that will stay as legendary. And the second is the next one. If you can see the trait, if you have any advanced trait, the new familiar is more likely to acquire advanced traits. This sentence is not written in ordinary conversion, because I have done some ordinary conversion and sometimes I get no traits. That's why in aberrant conversion, there is obviously, it is not easy to have aberrant familiars. That's why they have added this. If you have good traits in aberrant familiars and you do the conversion, you have more likely to retain those traits. However, obviously, if you get a utility, like I told, a utility trait, you should use the bounds and you should use the familiar over here, and you should not touch that familiar. Now we come to the end pact feature. If you see here, it says end pact will give you spirit essence, and it can also give you conversion stone. That's why end pact is very important. Like I showed you earlier in my the familiar crafting cycle, end pact can be at various stages. Suppose you already have a main familiar, you already have prepared. Now you have used a familiar summoning and you get a random familiar which you do not want. You can basically you can basically end pact with them and get 5 spirit essence. So that is the first way of using the end pact familiar. Suppose you have very common familiar, and by using conversion you get a familiar with say a gold skill. Now gold skill, if you end pact a familiar with a gold skill, you get conversion stones. So this feature is mostly for people who already have a very good familiar, or who are, or this is for the whales who need conversion stone a lot because they are using aberrant familiars only. So that's why end pact can be at various stages, maybe right at the time of summoning, maybe after conversion, or maybe after, even after melding. You have two familiars lying around, and you decided you want conversion stone right now. You meld them, you get a star on them, you end pact with them, and you get conversion stones. So that's why end pact can be used at any stage depending on your need. Initially, I would recommend not to use this feature, and especially if you are especially if you are a free to play, do not use this feature. Now if you are free to play and you somehow got 3 aberrant familiars, then you have to use this feature, because how else will you get conversion stones? That's if you are a low res, you have to keep in mind when to use the ending pact feature. Now we do a quick recap of the entire cycle. First we summon a familiar, and then we are going to empower the familiar, because level 1 familiar has only one use, which I've already which is to end pact. And then once you empower the familiar, you are going to use the convert feature. Convert feature you are using to get good traits. If you get good skills as well, that is also good. Convert feature you are using, basically that is gambling. That is basically gambling. You are hoping to get good traits as well as good skills. So if you get very good traits, you need to keep that familiar. If you get very good skills, you need to keep that familiar as well. If you get both, then you are very lucky. So once you get the convert feature done and you get the traits, you then go to melding. Basically, after conversion, once you have gotten the good traits, you will go to meld your familiar and get your star rating to 6. And already by conversion, if you get any legendary skill already, so that will retain after melding. So once you, after melding, you are done with your familiar. Once you have made your first familiar, you again want to improve it by using conversion. Save your first familiar, do this entire process for the another familiar, and in the process, if you get an aberrant familiar, you might even want to end pact at different stages, like I showed, like I was speaking in my end pact section, and get some conversion stone and use those conversion stone to get maybe better familiar. So as you can see, this is a pretty long process. Address the most important question. Suppose you get a full gold familiar. For example, one of my clanmates has got full gold familiar, gold skills and good traits. Now what do you want to do with this familiar? For now, I think you should keep that familiar and use it, and at the side you should start working on another familiar, because if you use this familiar in conversion, you might lose the traits, the important traits that you have got. So it's better to play safe than be sorry. Finally, if you have a lot of platinum available, you can obviously buy these familiars from the market. Now in the comments below, let me know down any question you have relating to this familiar crafting. Maybe I can do another video addressing all the questions, like a FAQ type of video, if there are any, because I know this is not a simple process and I tried to explain it as simply as possible, but still there can be various scenarios, specific scenarios to specific people, where you might be confused what to do next. So if you have any query, let me know down in the comments below. I can do another FAQ video very soon. So I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.